Breaking news! My friends, what we witnessed last night was surreal. It was a statement, a cold, physical showdown, the kind that tests the heart and soul of a football team. And ours walked out with heads held high, proving once again that Philly still knows how to win. With grit, with a dominant defense, and with pure attitude. Every play up there in Green Bay felt like a battle within a war. It was tough, it was ugly, but it was beautiful, because it showed who we truly are. A team that never backs down, that faces the cold, the pressure, and the noise, and still walks away smiling. But I want to hear from you. Is this defense the true engine of this team? Or will the offense soon find its rhythm and bring fear back to opposing defenses? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Was this victory a warning to the league, or just the first step towards something much bigger? And before we move on, you already know, smash that like button, because your support is the fuel that keeps this green nation alive. Here, we live every win like it's the last game on earth. Fly, Eagles, fly. That wasn't just another win in the standings, that was a statement. A 10-7 slugfest on the frozen tundra of Lambeau Field, where the Philadelphia Eagles went toe-to-toe with Green Bay and came out standing tall. It wasn't pretty, it wasn't flashy, but it was powerful. This was the kind of game that separates contenders from pretenders. You could feel it, the toughness, the resilience, the identity of this football team forged in cold Wisconsin air. What stood out wasn't the scoreboard, but the way the Eagles won. This defense, led by Vic Fangio, didn't just show up, it suffocated. Jordan Love was pressured on 17 of his 42 dropbacks, the second highest rate he's faced all season. Under that pressure, he completed just 3 of 12 passes for 21 yards and was sacked 3 times. Every level of that defense had a hand in it. Jalen Carter wrecking the pocket, Jordan Davis stuffing lanes, Brandon Graham still turning back the clock. And then there was Jaelan Phillips, in his debut as an Eagle, playing like he'd worn midnight green his entire life. Howie Roseman traded a third-round pick for Phillips, and if last night was any indication, that deal might already look like highway robbery. Phillips knew Fangio's scheme from his time in Miami, so he didn't need a warm-up period. He walked into the defense like he'd been built for it, and dominated. 8 pressures, 7 hurries, 2 quarterback hits, a forced fumble, a fumble recovery, and the biggest play of the night, a 4th-and-1 stuff on Josh Jacobs that flipped the momentum of the entire game. That's the kind of effort that changes not just a drive, but a season. You can feel the difference with this unit. They're not just talented, they're deep, disciplined, and dangerous. The kind of front that wins in January. The kind that doesn't need blitzes to cause chaos. The kind that forces elite quarterbacks into bad decisions. And if you think back to what this group did in the Super Bowl against Patrick Mahomes, 6 sacks, 22 pressures, 3 turnovers, you realize what this front 7 is capable of when they're rolling. Last night felt like a return to that same championship-caliber dominance. But the truth is, as suffocating as the defense was, the offense has some questions to answer.
10 points, 294 total yards, just 4.9 yards per play. Yes, this Packers defense is one of the league's best, top 8 in scoring, top 5 in total yards allowed, but that doesn't fully excuse the lack of rhythm and unpredictability from Philadelphia's attack. Play calling under Kevin Patullo once again looked cautious, sometimes even scared. 3rd and long runs that felt like waving the white flag. Limited creativity in sequencing. For all the weapons this offense has, it didn't feel like the Eagles were attacking. They were surviving. Jalen Hurts wasn't great, but he wasn't bad either. 15 completions on 26 attempts, 183 yards, 1 touchdown, no picks. But his fumble on the opening drive could have changed the complexion of the game entirely. Still, when the moment called for it, Hurts found his rhythm, nearly 100 passing yards in the 4th quarter, and once again, the clutch gene showed up. Say what you want about the stat sheet, but when the game's on the line, Hurts always seems to have control of the pulse. What doesn't make sense, though, is how little we're seeing from A.J. Brown. 2 catches, 13 yards. That's not just underwhelming, it's a misuse of elite talent. You watch what Sean McVay does in LA to get Puka Nacua 20 touches a game, and you have to wonder, how can the Eagles not scheme ways to feed A.J. Brown? When he's involved, the entire offense opens up, defenses shift, safeties cheat, the run game breathes. The lack of creativity to get him the ball, that's not on Hurts, that's on coaching. Meanwhile, DeVonta Smith continues to be the model of consistency. 4 catches, 69 yards, including that stunning 36-yard grab where he climbed the ladder and mossed the safety. Dallas Goedert and Saquon Barkley were steady too, Barkley with over 100 all-purpose yards against an elite defense. But this unit needs more synergy, that factor that allows them to feed off the defense's energy instead of relying solely on it. Because as great as this defense is, you can't expect them to hold teams to 7 points every week. That's not sustainable in today's NFL. Still, the beauty of it all, and the reason this team keeps finding ways to win, lies in their identity. They thrive in the mud. They win ugly. They win gritty. They win when it matters most. No team in football has more one-score victories this season than the Eagles, and that's not luck. That's culture. That's composure. That's Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts establishing a heartbeat that doesn't change no matter how chaotic the moment becomes. After the win, the Eagles moved back into the NFC's #1 seed. The entire division lost over the weekend, and while the Seahawks briefly climbed the ladder, Philly took it back on conference record. Now the road to January goes through them, but there's no time to relax. The Lions are waiting in Week 11, well-rested and ready, while the Eagles come off a short week after a cold, bruising Monday night battle. So here's the question, after watching a defensive masterpiece like that and an offense still trying to find its rhythm, what do you, the fans, think? Is this Eagles team built to win it all through defense and grit, or does the offense still need to evolve before we start talking about another Super Bowl run? Because make no mistake, this team's ceiling depends on whether the offense can meet the defense halfway. What we saw against the Packers was a masterclass in toughness, execution, and willpower from the defensive side of the ball. But to survive deep into January, that complementary football Nick Sirianni preaches can't just be a talking point, it has to become the norm. When the defense is this dominant, the offense doesn't need to be spectacular, it just needs to be efficient, unpredictable, and capable of delivering knockout blows instead of body shots. There's reason for optimism, though. We've seen flashes of what this offense can look like when it's clicking. Before the bye, Jalen Hurts had 7 touchdowns and 0 interceptions over 2 games. The timing was sharp, the tempo was up, and the creativity felt alive again. You saw balance, play action, motion, quick reads, and it felt like the Eagles were dictating to defenses rather than reacting. So the question becomes, where did that rhythm go? Did the conservative play calling in Lambeau stem from trust issues, or was it a byproduct of facing one of the league's most disciplined defensive units? Either way, if Philadelphia wants to stay atop the NFC, they have to find that offensive identity again, and fast. Let's not forget how relentless this schedule is. The Eagles have the Lions next, then face the Bears on Black Friday, followed by tough matchups against teams like the Seahawks and the Cowboys down the stretch. Every game matters, every mistake is magnified, and that's where coaching comes in. Kevin Patullo and Nick Sirianni have to get back into that creative bag, not to reinvent the wheel, but to make defenses guess again. The foundation is there: Hurts, Brown, Smith, Barkley, Goedert, all top-tier talents who can break games open. But play design and sequencing have to complement what defenses are giving them. Right now, it feels like Philadelphia is playing checkers while the elite offenses in this league are playing chess. And yet, what's special about this team is their refusal to blink. When the game gets ugly, when the crowd gets loud, when the temperature drops, they don't panic. Jalen Phillips said it best after his debut: no panic. Utmost confidence on both sides of the ball. That's what separates the Eagles from so many others. It's the calm and chaos. It's Jalen Hurts' unshakable demeanor. It's a locker room built on trust, accountability, and experience in the biggest moments. And when you combine that with a coach like Sirianni, a true CEO type who oversees every detail without micromanaging, you get a culture that simply doesn't break. Look at what Sirianni has built. Since taking over, he's crafted not just a scheme, but an identity, one grounded in physical football, mental toughness, and unity. He has the second highest winning percentage of any head coach since the NFL merger, trailing only John Madden. That's not a coincidence. That's a reflection of leadership, adaptability, and a team that believes in every word he says. His players buy in because they see the results, growth, consistency, and the belief that every Sunday, no matter the opponent, the weather, or the odds, they can win. Culture wins in this league. You can see it in the way the Eagles finish games. 6 wins in one-score situations this year, the most in the NFL. That doesn't happen by accident. It's not luck or good fortune. It's discipline, preparation, and the mental edge of knowing that when the fourth quarter comes, Philadelphia doesn't fade, they rise. The Packers learned that lesson the hard way, and teams like the Seahawks, Lions, and Cowboys know that when they face the Eagles, they're not just facing talent. they're facing a team that's built for the moments that decide seasons. So, where does this all lead? If the defense keeps playing at this level, suffocating quarterbacks, collapsing pockets, forcing turnovers, and if the offense can find just a bit more balance, just a bit more edge, this could easily be the most complete team in football. They don't have to win pretty. They just have to win their way, physical, fearless, and unrelenting. And when it comes down to crunch time in January, there may not be a single team in the NFC that can walk into Lincoln Financial Field and beat the Eagles at their own game. Now, Birds fans, I want to hear from you. What's your take after this gritty win in Green Bay? Do you believe the defense is strong enough to carry this team all the way? Or do you think the offense needs to make major changes before we can start dreaming about another Lombardi? Drop your thoughts below. And if you enjoyed breaking this game down with us, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and keep that bell on. More breakdowns, more film talk, and more Eagles passion are coming your way, and you won't want to miss what's next. Fly, Eagles, fly, and I'll see you in the next video. And as we move forward, what's really fascinating about this Eagles team is how they keep redefining what winning football looks like in today's NFL. Around the league, you see teams chasing flash, high-octane passing attacks, gadget plays, and viral highlight reels, but in Philadelphia, they've doubled down on something far more fundamental: toughness, structure, and belief. You don't have to win 38-35 every week when your defense hits this hard and your locker room is built on accountability. You just have to win, period. That's what separates the Eagles from so many other so-called contenders. When things get tough, when the game slows down, when the wind howls, when the script goes sideways, they don't flinch. They adapt. They grind. And that adaptability is what defines championship DNA. Think about how this team has evolved over the last few seasons. They can win in the trenches, they can win on the edge, and they can win through grit alone. It's not always glamorous, but it's the kind of football that travels, and it's exactly the kind that wins in January. You look at players like Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis anchoring the defensive line, two young monsters who've already become the heartbeat of the front seven. Add in veterans like Brandon